Principles of Microeconomics. This lecture covers Chapter 10 of your book, which goes over monopoly and price discrimination. Before we begin, I want you to think of the first thing that comes to mind when you hear discrimination, specifically price discrimination. More than likely, you're thinking something negative, where people are not treated fairly. What we're going to talk about in this chapter is actually price discrimination, where people, even though they're charged different prices, it's fair, and everyone benefits from this. But before we begin, we must revisit what a monopoly is. So a monopoly is a market structure in which a single firm sells a product that does not have any close substitutes. In other words, I can't go and find another product that will give me as much utility or will be as useful or even close to the product that the monopoly is selling. In essence, they control the market. Market power is essential for monopolies as well as price discrimination. You must have the ability to affect the price of its product. In the instance of a monopoly, let's just use LP&L, Lubbock Power and Light, as an example. They can raise their price, and we have no choice but to take it. We're price takers because they have market power. They can affect the price. We can't go to another electrical company. When I lived in Amarillo, it was Xcel Energy, and I think there were a few others. Living in Lubbock, it's pretty much LP&L and only LP&L. Barriers to entry. So with the monopoly, there must be large barriers to entry. There has to be a reason that other firms aren't entering a profitable market, because that doesn't make sense. Remember, we're going to see perfect competition when there are very few barriers to entry, because everybody's going to try to take some of the market and some of the profit, and we're going to push marginal cost down, or marginal benefit down to marginal cost, or price down to marginal cost, and therefore there won't be any excess profit. However, with a monopoly, there might be some huge barriers to entry. For example, with LP&L, the example I just used, you can't just start an electrical company. You can't just come in and say, I'm going to start this electrical company. Starting tomorrow, you're going to have electricity at your house. The city of Lubbock actually owns the electrical lines that are going to your house and that go throughout the city, so it prevents other firms from entering this market. Some things that we have done to eliminate monopolies from just controlling the market are patents and copyrights. A patent is the exclusive right to sell a new good for some period of time. What I want you to know from this, and you probably have a good idea of what a patent is, it's just when you have the invention, you have the ability to file a patent. If it gets approved, then you have a period of time which you can sell that with, and no one else can sell that. And if they take your idea and try to produce it, you can sue them for infringement on your rights. Well, what I wanted you to take from this is that it's some period of time, and it's usually 7 to 14 years, I believe, in the United States, depending on the particular patent. It varies because of certain items like pharmaceutical drugs. They take a lot longer to produce, and they're very costly, so the patents last a little bit longer. The reason why it's not continuous forever, for a lifetime, is that if I were to develop a patent, and let's just say it was for the smartphone, and I'm BlackBerry, and I developed this patent, I control that patent. No one else can produce a smartphone for life. Then we don't have any incentive to create better products at cheaper prices. However, we do want people to innovate, so we have patents so the little guy or the little firm or little business can still invent and not be worried about the big monopolies just pushing them out and crushing them. Network externalities. So we've talked about externalities. Those are things that happen outside of the market that you can't control. The value of a product to a consumer increases with the number of other consumers who use this. In other words, this is something that's very difficult to measure, but it's very important that we notate it. The more people that use my product, the more valuable it becomes. And this really has nothing to do with how, well, I guess I should say it has something to do with how great it is, but it has more to do with the popularity. It's signaling theory, which we'll talk about later on. But the idea is that because I'm using this product and other people see me using this product and they continue to use it, the more people who use it, the value increases, and that's a network externality, something we can't necessarily control. A natural monopoly is a market in which the economies of scale and production are so large that only a single firm can earn a profit. In other words, the electrical lines, they came about, and now that they're there and we've built this infrastructure in Lubbock where the homes are everywhere and the streets are already built up, it's almost impossible to go in and try to build new electrical lines. So the ones that are there, owned by Lubbock LP&L, or I guess that's redundant, LP&L, Lubbock Power and Light, they are the monopoly. Nobody else can really earn a profit because they have already achieved the economies of scale, and everybody else, it would be so costly to start up the business that they just can't do it. This is just another good example of how marginal revenue equals the price for the first unit sold, but the more you sell, then the more profit you're going to bring. So using the marginal principle, there's a three-step process explaining how a monopolist picks the quantity and how they compute the monopoly profit, how their profit is computed. First, they find the quantity that satisfies the marginal principle. That is, the quantity at which marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Just like you all, they're going to produce as much as possible and as much as we're going to buy. We look at that in the second step. Using the demand curve, they find the price associated with the monopolist's chosen quantity. Then they're able to compute the monopolist's profit, or we are. Profit per sold equals the price minus average cost. We've covered that a few times, so total revenue minus total cost equals the profit. And then they can just times that by how many units are sold. Rentseeking. Using resources to give monopoly power. The process of using public policy to gain economic profit. This happens more so back east, where populations are just increasing so vastly that people are able to use rent-seeking in a way that it's more likely that you are limited on what you can buy. For example, a good example of rent-seeking is saying something to the effect that you must use a tollway to get from point A to point B, a toll road, and the only business that uses toll road or owns a toll road is Company X. However, if you don't use that toll road, Company X will also give you a bus ride or something for a relatively similar cost. That's not a really good example, but just a simple example of the public policy stating that this is options that we're going to give. Another, probably a better example, would be something like where, and this is more relative to where we live, cotton is produced at a certain price, and if the price falls below a certain range, that's called the price floor, and the United States government sets a certain price floor in which it cannot fall below that price. If it does, public policy states that the United States will subsidize each bushel of cotton per certain percent to reach that floor. And so therefore they're able to gain an economic profit because they don't necessarily have to worry about the cost. They're able to forego cost. An example I used previously, because the public policy stated that maybe they subsidized the government subsidized the bus ride or something like that because the toll road is too expensive. Well, they give you a little bit of option for that, and so you're able to use economic profit. Write-offs, tax deductions, things like this, they provide a lot of rent seeking. Also making it to where you only have one option that will initiate a monopoly, which in turn will initiate rent seeking. Given the social costs of a monopoly, the government uses a number of policies to intervene in markets dominated by a single firm or likely to become a monopoly. The reason why this is crucial is monopolies lead to higher prices and less productivity and invention, and we want to have lower prices and more productivity as well as innovation. So there's some trade-offs with having patents, just like I mentioned earlier. It is sensible for a government to grant a patent for a product that would otherwise not be developed, but is not sensible for other products. So in other words, we're granting all these patents, but sometimes we're granting patents that we know are going to come about no matter what. A good example of this would be sliced bread. I don't know if there ever was a patent for sliced bread, but if someone was the first to invent sliced bread and they patent it, then nobody else could benefit from that. And because patents have to be objective and they can't say, well, surely someone's going to invent sliced bread, we grant patents for all products. And there's a chance that we're going to have some producer surplus because consumers are paying more for a product that would have been invented no matter what. Because no one knows in advance whether a particular product would be developed, the government has to be very objective. Like I said, they can't be selective. They can't say, well, this is a good patent, this is not. Also, in some cases, patents lead to new products, while in other cases, they just prolong the monopoly power. For instance, a great example of this is with the smartphones and the industry. BlackBerry patents the first smartphone technology with keyboard. Well, Apple iPhone decides to make the touchscreen. They patent their product. And we've seen this as far as lawsuits between Apple and Motorola and Samsung. They change it up a little bit. Maybe they changed the screen just a little bit, the operating systems. What we're seeing is because they patent these products, other people are, or other industries, companies, are essentially patenting or coming up with new patents, innovating in a little bit different way, and we'll keep getting newer and better and cheaper products. Alright, so here's what I want to talk about today, and I love talking about this. I could talk about price discrimination forever. Unfortunately for you, I won't. So, what is price discrimination? Essentially, it's the practice of selling a good at different prices to different consumers, and we're going to look at what you need to have for that, but just know that you're charging two different prices, at least two different prices, for the same good to different consumers. Essentially, you're looking for consumers that may not purchase the good unless you charge a cheaper price. The best example I can give of this for college students is ladies' night at a club. I went to college. Where I went to college, they had a Wednesday night ladies' night where ladies got in free and guys had to pay a cover charge of $10. I think it may have been $5, I'm not sure, $5 to $10. And you know what? Tons and tons of guys paid it. That's not fair, right? The girls are getting in free. Why would I not accept a price as close to free if the girls are getting that price? It seems as though I am giving producer surplus to the club. Well, it's because of utility. Obviously, I want as many females there as possible, just like every other guy, and that's the intent. Guys will come no matter what, but girls, on the other hand, females notoriously probably wouldn't pay if guys got in free. It just doesn't make sense. That's probably my favorite example of price discrimination. Another good example would be on Friday nights. If you are elderly, and this happened to me recently, if you're over 65, you can go to a movie and get in, I think it's half price maybe. So recently I went to a movie, and obviously I'm not over 65, don't be thinking that if you are. Anyways, let's move on. So what happened to me recently is I went to Captain America, and the individual in front of me, he was over 65, and I went to one of the first releases of Captain America, and the price was like $10 for the ticket. I think 10 to 12, I'm not sure, but the guy in front of me got it for $5, $6, and he bought some popcorn and Coke at the same price. But I realized everything that he purchased, his popcorn, his Coke, as well as the ticket, cost the same as my one ticket. The reason being, I really wanted to see this movie. He, on the other hand, is on the fence, and the likelihood he's going to see it is based on price. He has a very elastic price, if you'll recall from this second section, the second exam, when we talked about elasticity of demand. Because he's very price sensitive, then there's a good chance that if you lower the price, he's going to purchase it. If you raise the price, he's not going to purchase it. Me, on the other hand, I'm got pretty much an elastic demand, so I'm going to purchase the ticket no matter what. Now, here's something you need to notate with price discrimination. It's very important that the consumers who get discriminated against, in other words, that pay a higher price, are okay with it. At least to the extent they're not going to be dissident and raise any type of public outcry. Now, I might have been a little frustrated at this gentleman because he got it half price, but in reality, he's lived a long life. He's earned it, right? What if he was a veteran and got a veteran's discount? I don't know of anybody who would cry out how horrible it is when veterans get a discount. It just doesn't make sense. You would be chastised for being against the military, right? Just like the senior citizens. Just like the guy at the club. No guy in their right mind is going to say, this is unfair, we're letting women in free. I don't understand. There are a lot of women here, however, I think I should be let in free as well. That's just not going to happen. So there are three things that must exist for price discrimination to work. First, market power. You've got to have market power. It makes sense. If I don't have market power, how in the world can I offer different prices for different groups? A good example of this is, let's just say there was a club that was really, really, really popular, and it every Wednesday night let men in for $5 and women in free. So they had a ladies' night. Then you start a club and it has no market power, and you decide, well, I'm going to beat them. I'm going to pay women $1 to come in, and men can get in free. Now, eventually you might get people coming. However, you don't have any market power yet, and that business who you're competing against, they have a good chance of running you out. They have a good chance of lowering other costs, maybe making it to where they pay their females who come to their club $3, $4, and then you have tons of women at their club just to get you out of business. So you have to have some type of market power. You have to have a little bit ability to change prices. In the instance of the movie theater, if I were to open up a movie theater, brand new movie theater, but it's not very popular, and I only have one theater, so there aren't very many screens, and I decide, you know what, I'm going to offer price discrimination. If you're a student, you get in for a third of the price. Wow, that movie theater will be very, very popular. However, I don't have very much market power because I only have one small theater. People are going to line up for hours to get my tickets. They're going to be very... the opportunity cost of lining up is going to be so costly. They're going to be very frustrated, and their utility is going to go down. They're going to say, you know what? I don't mind paying a few extra dollars, knowing that I'll get a good seat, comfortable, I can go at various times. Price discrimination just doesn't work if I don't have market power. Secondly, you must have different consumer groups. It is impossible for me to discriminate by saying, alright, everybody in my restaurant is senior citizens, everybody's over 65, I'm going to offer anybody who's over 65 a discount. That wouldn't work because I'm just giving everybody a discount. I might as well say everything is 10% off. However, what if I did it a different way? What if I said, hey, everybody in my restaurant's over 65. If you're a student, I'm going to give you half off. Well, now I have two different consumer groups because the people in my restaurant right now are senior citizens. They're already purchasing food. However, I'm trying to get these other consumer group to come in. Thirdly, resale is not possible. It can't be possible that you'll buy the good at a cheaper price and then turn around and sell it. You're not going to go, senior citizens aren't going to go to Furs and buy a steak dinner and get it for, I don't know, $3 off and then stand out in the parking lot and try to sell it. Yeah, they might be able to do one or two steak dinners that way, but not enough to be profitable, and it wouldn't affect your business. I can't go to a movie if I'm a senior citizen or a veteran, get a discount, and then try to sell that movie. It just is impossible. This is why you don't see Walmart offering price discrimination. It's not as though Walmart's going to say, if you're a senior citizen or a veteran, we'll give you 20% off, because they could actually stand outside because they could buy all those goods. Those goods are easily resold. They could stand outside and say, I've got milk here for $2. Well, I would buy it, as would everybody else, and then as soon as they sold it, they would go back inside and do the same exact thing. So resale must not be possible. This just kind of shows you the effect with price discrimination, senior discounts in restaurants. What we see is that because the demand increases as well as marginal revenue, we're going to increase the quantity sold, and therefore we're going to have a higher profit. Price discrimination and elasticity of demand, I covered that a lot. We know that if you have elastic demand, that's where price discrimination comes into play. If your demand is inelastic, there's no point to offer price discrimination. They're going to buy anyways. Don't offer price discrimination if you are a new business and people are already coming. Doesn't make sense. Now, that being said, it's very important to point out the difference between price discrimination and just discounts or coupons. Those aren't price discrimination because those aren't specific to a consumer group. I hope you enjoyed this brief lecture. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email address is jkemper@southplainscollege.edu. You can also hit me up at Twitter @Mr. Kemper. Thank you and have a nice day.